morning.
Good morning, Josh.
In the meantime, you guys can turn to Genesis chapter 37 in your Bibles or apps. Genesis chapter 37. And while you guys are doing that, it is time for Fun Time with Josh. I have an object lesson.
Yay, Josh!
Yes, you guys know you love your object lessons. This one does not have to deal with fire, I promise you, okay? Mr. Jerry does not need the fire extinguisher. I need a volunteer. Need a volunteer. I know. Well, I'm trying to weigh it out. See, the kids don't realize this. Like, if I do like a trust fall with some of the kids, I'm always looking for the tiniest kid because I am not strong. So I'm looking for, actually, you know what? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Every couple of weeks, about every month or so, we do a thing with my youth leaders where it is a game night where it's kind of, we call it the leader games after the Hunger Games, but it's kind of like where the kids do something involving the leaders. And I have one leader who keeps on escaping every week. Rachel, would you please come on up? And she's being such a good sport about it. Oh, yay. Okay, now is when I tell you that it's actually powder. Okay. All right. So you trust me, right? No? Okay. I need you to hold this. And I'm going to take, wait 1 second. Okay, it wasn't really an object lesson. But you all thought it was, so it was pretty convincing. All right. Now, actually, we are opening up to the book of Genesis, chapter 37. Are you embarrassed? See, next time, just say yes to the leader games, and we don't have to embarrass you this way. All right, Genesis chapter 37. Just to kind of clarify, I'm the youth director. I'm Josh. I am not the pastor of the church, but I deal with the youth. So kind of consider this youth group. We've already done an embarrassing thing. You guys feel free to talk to me. More responses, the better. If I don't have one person that I'm telling to be quiet at least one time, I feel like I'm not at youth group. Yes, and one leader too. Tim, shh. All right, Genesis chapter 37, starting at verse 1. Jacob settled in the land where his father had lived as an alien, the land of Canaan. This is the story of the family of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. He was a helper to the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other children, because he was the son of his old age, and he had made him a long robe with sleeves. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Once Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream that I dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright. Then your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed going to reign over us? Are you indeed to have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. He had another dream, and he told it to his brothers, saying, "Look, I've had another dream. The sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What kind of dream is this that you have had? Shall we indeed come, I and your mother and your brothers, and bow to the ground before you?" So his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. And then jumping over to verse 18 of the same chapter. They saw him from a distance, it's talking about Joseph's brothers. And before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." All right, favoritism. Parents, do you have a favorite kid? If they are here, don't point them out. The parents, Erica, you are the favorite. Is she the favorite? All three. Yes, that's a mom comment. Yes, all three. I was not the favorite. I was the oldest. Then there was Joel, who was 3 years younger. Joel was not the favorite because after us came Trevor, and there's 12 years difference between me and Trevor. And Trevor was the baby, so I go off and live in Florida. Joel goes off and lives in Virginia, and then there's Trevor, who is not the favorite either, because down the way, my parents bought a little tiny chipmunk dog. I don't know what kind of dog it is. To me, it's a chipmunk dog. It's a little tiny ball of fur, Abby, and they love Abby so much. They do. They do something which, if you do this to your dog, I don't think so. I think it's because she doesn't talk back to them. They did something they do stuff with this dog that, okay, if you do this to your pets, I apologize, but really, your dog has fur. You don't need to put clothes on it. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm sure the dogs love the dress. Yes, I'm sure. No, it has fur. It was designed that way for a reason. I'm sorry. Dressing it up for Halloween? No, I don't think so. They love. I'm hurting people's feelings already. I'm doing a great job. They love this dog. They love Abby. They talk to the dog. They like with me when I was born. It was kind of like anytime Josh did something out of line, we'll just smack it out of him. Right? First kids, isn't that the way it is? You're kind of okay. He just. What's ADD, or whatever, different things like that. And then there was Joel, and they got a little looser. And then with Trevor, they were like, oh, we'll just bring him to a counselor. And then there's, now to this day, my mom's like, hey, remember how you wouldn't pay attention? Yeah, you might actually have stuff. Every time I go to the doctor, my mom's like, you might want to check this because apparently it runs in the family. Oh, okay, thanks. And then there's Abby, the little dog. Abby pees on the floor. It's cute. If I peed on the floor, I would not walk ever again. It would not be cute. They just love this dog. My parents came up to visit, and they had the dog staying up in Rhode Island. And my little brother Trevor was at the house watching the dog. And what happened was my brother Trevor called up my dad, and he's like, hey, I'm going to my friend's house. My dad was like, you have to be, now Trevor's 18, you have to be home at this time, and you can't leave between this hour and this hour. And he's like, well, why? Well, because Abby can't be left at the house alone. Well, why not? She gets nervous. She's a nervous dog. She can't be by herself. For 5 hours? No. And it's stormy, so you know how Abby is. She panics. And I'm sitting there going, how many times did my parents just, hey, we're going to be back in a couple of days, hey, there's a microwave meal in the fridge. And my dad got mad because Trevor ended up sleeping over his friend's house. He was gone for like 8 hours. And they were like, the next morning, my dad's like reaming out my brother on the phone. Listen, if Abby is nervous and she peed all over the floor, you have to clean it up because you left that poor dog by, okay, Abby is the favorite of the family. I'm not, Trevor's not, Joel's not, Abby is the little dog. My dad actually talked to the dog on the phone. He was like, put Abby on. Hey. Embarrassing. Joseph was the favorite of the family. It talks about how he got the special jacket. His dad loved him, and it was obvious. And Joseph being just like every other sibling in the world, when he knew that he was the favorite, he rubbed it in. Correct? Any other siblings here? You rub in the fact that you do something better than the other. You get a raise. You get a better job. You get a better, I don't know. You like to rub it in to your sibling. And like every sibling, the rest of them conspired to kill their brother. Have you guys ever been there where you tried to kill your brother or sister? Really? Okay, see, some people are being honest. Okay, maybe not kill. Maybe not kill, a little bit, yes. Rachel says a little bit. The best was listening to Amber and Cody in the first service, and then she told me the horror stories after, and the poor guy, he's counseling still. Um, it's kind of, Cody, we can all blame it on his sister. I was mean to my brother Joel, like any good sibling should do. I probably told this story before, but when he went to the dentist for the first time, he was so nervous because of everything that I put into his head that I just heard the scream from the office. I was in the waiting room, and then I heard the rest of the story later, but apparently the doctor's like, okay, Joel, it's your first time. Open up your mouth. And my brother went and threw up all over the dentist. Which meant that I was in trouble. And then later on, he thought he was funny. My brother was accident prone. And he broke his leg. It was his leg that he broke a lot of stuff. But this time it was his leg, and he had it in a cast. And like any good brother or sister does, when they have it in a cast and they are fighting with you, they use it as a weapon, right? Because that's what the cast is for. And so he was using it against me as a weapon. And to get back at him, I took goldfish crackers and shoved them into his cast and hit it. Why does everyone go, oh, I was being beaten by a cast? Okay, so I was being beaten by a cast, and I took crackers and shoved them into his cast and broke it. It's not only disgusting, but apparently, since he still had a couple weeks left of the cast, the crackers actually started to penetrate his skin. Why am I attacked here? I didn't know this. Man, it's a tough crowd. All right. Well, at least they're more active than the first service, but throwing me. All right. In the end, he got the cast off. They had to put a new one on. I got yelled at by my parents, the doctor, It wasn't pretty for me. All right. Joseph had it bad. His brothers wanted to kill him. And they actually decided when he was coming towards them, they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to kill him. And one of his brothers talked them out of it. And so they decided instead that they were going to throw him into a cistern, which is, if you picture this story in your head, a lot of times you're like, oh, it's a little pit that Joseph just can't reach. It was like a big, deep ditch thing that they threw him into. It went really far down. And to make matters worse, they then sold him to slavers. Perfect life for Joseph. Today I want to talk to you guys about dreams. And not like last night I dreamt I was a unicorn. Not that kind of dream. I'm talking about what you pictured over your life. Maybe when you were a little kid, we talked about on Wednesday what Tim wanted to be when he got older. He wanted to be a Care Bear. Woo! And he succeeded. I wanted to be a lemonade man. My brother wanted to be a marine biologist. And you can kind of tell who the smarter one is. Everyone had dreams. Everyone has dreams. And it's not just who you want to be when you get older, but it's dreams of your life, what you wanted to do with your life, success, what you wanted out of a family. And everyone has these dreams, but over time something happens. See, when I was born, I didn't have a whole lot of dreams because one of the big things about me is I was born with a skin disorder. And I've talked about it before, but it basically is there's not enough of a nutrient between some of the levels of my skin, and heat, friction, all that kind of stuff cause my skin to blister, and it treats it like a second degree burn. So constantly in pain. When I was a little kid, it was a lot worse. I had a lot more over my body. And when I was born, my first year or two, I was in the hospital. I basically lived out of the hospital. Parents didn't know what to do. I mean, everything, they couldn't even give me a bottle because, my lips had blisters all over them and everything like that. And I love my grandmother, but people sometimes say the wrong thing. And she refused to visit me in the hospital. And when my parents asked her why, she said, well, he's going to die anyway. So there wasn't a lot of dreams or hope put in me. And that's what I grew up in. And so there weren't a lot of dreams that I saw for my life because by the world's standards, I'm flawed. I'm broken. I'm disabled. There's a girl, her name is Joni Eareckson Tada. Joni Eareckson Tada, she's older now, but she was a young girl. She had her whole life ahead of her, 16 years old, everything going great for her. And she was diving, took a dive wrong, and came out paralyzed. Her whole life ahead of her, and she was paralyzed. Kind of like with Joseph. Joseph had all these great dreams, and then because of his brother's jealousy, now he's a slave. We run into issues like this, where everything is going good in our life, where everything is how we dreamed it would be and everything like that, and then things happen. It's like the floor comes out from underneath us. Everything comes to a screeching halt. I done this, my background is I love missions, and we're working on doing a missions trip overseas with the youth group next year. And I love missions. I've gone overseas about 11 to 12 times, and it's just that youth and missions is my heartbeat. And I was going on, it was actually one of my last trips. I was working up in Rhode Island at a church up there, and they were doing this trip, and the trips go for like $1,400. And I'm a college student, going to school full-time, working as best I can full-time, and then also working at the church too. And they talked about this trip, and this person approached me after, and they were like, I really feel called to say that your trip is paid for. I'm going to pay for your trip. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's great. Yes. And so I went through knowing my trip was going to be paid off. And as the trip approached closer and closer, they were calling, like the church was calling, hey, do you have a deposit? Does this person give? No. They go to the church, blah, blah, blah. They can, and every week they'd be like, oh yeah, I'll get the check-in. And about 2 months before we were about to leave from the trip, when the whole amount is due, this person approached me and says, I was praying about it, and actually I feel like I'm called to go on the trip, so I can't pay for you. So with 2 months left, I have $1,400 that I have to pull out of thin air. And I was like, okay, you know what? I really want to do this. I'm going to work my butt off, overtime, everything like that. And so I start doing it. Start working hard, racking up some money. And I was the junior high pastor at the church. And every year we were doing a flag football tournament in the gym. And I had my team. It was at the playoffs. And, I am competitive. I am. Anyone else here competitive? When you are in the game, you are in the game. You might say stuff you regret later, but, you might, knock over some little kids if they're in the way. But, I am in the game. And so we're playing this game, and the other team, all they keep on doing is running with the ball. And I'm telling my guys, they're going to run it. You got to stop them. And this little kid, granted, he's like a little teenager, but get in his face. You got to knock him. I'm into the game. And we're in this gym, brick walls. They had the old school cafeteria, the huge wooden, heavy tables. And they were up against the wall. And we're playing, and they go to run the ball again. And so I'm like, this person isn't going to cover them. So I book across the field. I have no athletic abilities whatsoever. So in my head, it's slow motion. I'm like, it's more like I'm kind of like running like whatever. And I go run to go get the person, and I reach for his flag, and that's when I realized that the kid that I was yelling at to cover him had actually covered him that time, and he had slid underneath and grabbed the flag and was standing up as I was running in his direction. And so I got 1 foot over him, and the other foot was going over him, and then he stood up and didn't realize I was there. And I went flying across headfirst into these cafeteria tables, which are up against the brick wall. The cafeteria table and the brick wall did not move. My skull did. And so I got up, and, there's a shock. And I'm like, okay, all right, we got him. We stopped him. And everyone's like, what? You might want to go in the bathroom for a second. And I was like, okay. And so I go in the bathroom, and all right here is kind of like hanging down. And, I'm like, I don't feel anything. Well, I'm Superman. And they bring me to the hospital, 12 stitches. I have a scar permanently here. And then I get hit with the hospital bill, $300 out of the money that I had just been saving up for the missions trip. Have you ever been there? I don't know that's a small thing, but have you ever been there where it seems like you can never get ahead? And you are striving. Maybe it's dreams, maybe it's things that you're doing. You're striving, and it seems like you take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And everything keeps on crashing around. See, working with teens, there's crazy stuff. Working with teens for so long, teens go through such crazy things. They go through such hardship. And teens are good at it, just like people are. They're good at wearing masks. And they can act like everything is really good, but inside they're hurt and broken. I've worked with teens, for so long. There are teens that are struggling with suicide. There are kids that are struggling with bullying. There are kids that are struggling when their parents get divorced. There are all these kids, and they feel so broken, just like us. It happens to us too. Me with my skin. That girl Joni with her back injury. Everything's going good for her. And suddenly it's taken away. And Joseph, he's given these dreams, and everything is torn away from him. And what happens is, it's kind of like, where is it? There we go. Yes. It's kind of like this. If you haven't noticed, the youth room is now a chalkboard wall, which is great, except for the fact that chalks are really dusty. This chalk is really dusty. It is. And I constantly have to monitor the wall to make sure no one writes any bad stuff. Timmy. No, just kidding. But see, our life is, a lot of times, everything is going great, and it's kind of like this chalk right here. See, the thing about chalk is it's very easily smashed. Yes. Yes, that was my workout for the week. But see, what happens is this. You go through life, and maybe it happened when you were a kid. There are some people that their innocence gets stolen away. Maybe it was, family going through divorce. Maybe it was death in the family. And what happens is we have our dreams, and we have the way that we think everything is supposed to go, and everything is going to go. And the next thing you know, we're left holding the cracked and broken pieces of our life. And we're left wondering why. Joseph, he went through that. Everything gets taken away. All these dreams, gone. And we're left wondering why. Some people, it might have happened recently, maybe a job. Some people, it's happened and they've dealt with it for decades and decades, that they've held on to these broken pieces. But see, something crazy and amazing happened. See, that girl, Joni, she's actually known because during her time of therapy or whatever, they started something where she put a paintbrush in her mouth, paralyzed from the neck down, and she would paint with her mouth. And they found out that she could paint amazingly. And she actually became known for her masterpieces. She has these beautiful, amazing paintings. Besides athletic ability, I have no artistic ability either. But you look at them, and it just looks so amazing. And then she went, and now she actually works mission-wide all across the world, working with disabled people, showing them the love of God, finding them places where they can work and where they could do stuff, and giving them a hope. For me, I'm not trying to brag because it's all God, but me, I was born without any dreams. Again, by the world's standards, I am flawed, I'm broken, I'm disabled. And yet God has allowed me to go places that I should never have even been able to walk, taken me places that I could never even have imagined. And then there's Joseph. All through his life, it comes crashing down. Man, if you know the story later on, he gets picked up by the guard, Pharaoh's guard, and he gets hired there as one of their servants, and everything's going great. And then he gets accused of something, and he goes back into jail. And things just keep on coming crashing around him. And then eventually something happens, and he becomes Pharaoh over Egypt, second in command, to the Pharaoh of Egypt. See, here's the thing. Joseph's dreams were broken. I mean, that's what even the verse said, that when his brothers came and they saw him, they said, we're going to do this. And then what'll happen to his dreams? Maybe you guys have had dreams in your life. Maybe it's been taken away. Maybe your future has been taken away. Maybe you don't know, and you're left there holding these shattered remains of your life, of your dreams, of your hopes. See, just like Joseph, God has never left you. And you hear Joseph's story, and it's just crash after crash after crash. But then what happens? At the very end, there's a drought in the land. And everyone's looking for food. And because of Joseph, Egypt has food. And who should come to Joseph for food and bow down before him? His brothers. See, you guys have dreams in your life. You guys have a way that you think your life is going to play out. People hope for the best, and then everything comes crashing down. But I want you guys to know that the most amazing thing is this, that we serve a God who is a God that recovers. We serve a God who takes the broken pieces and does something amazing with them. And it doesn't matter what has happened in your life. It doesn't matter how long you've held on to these broken pieces. He is a God who can take the impossible and make it possible. See, there's this movie, and it's called Joshua. And it's an older movie, and it's based off of a book. And it's kind of like a what if Jesus came to some small town. And the guy's name in it is Joshua. And In this movie, he's talking to this reporter, and this reporter is like many of us, where she wore this great mask. Everything was together, everything was great, she was successful, and then she starts revealing that there's all these things that her life is literally in pieces. And she's talking to Joshua, and she's like, see, I can't believe in this God, I can't believe in anything like that, because this vase was my life. And then this, and she smashes it on the ground, and she said, and there is no God that can put that back together. And she leaves, and at the very end of the movie, she comes back to say bye to Joshua, and Joshua's already gone. But there's the pastor that's there. And he said, before Josh left, he wanted me to give you something. And he gives her this ballerina. And she's like, oh, that's very nice. And then he goes, yeah, it's amazing. Well, what's so amazing about it? This is all made out of broken pieces of glass. He's so creative that he can take these broken pieces of glass and he makes them into something beautiful. See, that's the way that God is. Man, there are things that I've struggled with in my life, with my skin. There are people that have struggled with stuff, feeling loved, wanting to be loved. Maybe your family has just broken apart. Maybe you've lost someone and you just don't know what's going to happen. And we are left with shattered pieces, but God is a God who restores. And just like Joseph, in the end, even though Joseph could have thought that all those dreams are gone, God breathed new life into those dreams. And God wants to do the same thing to you guys as the worship team comes on up. God wants to take those broken, shattered pieces that you are carrying around, and he wants to breathe new life into them. He wants to take your brokenness and put it back together. During this time, we're just going to have a time of reflection where you guys can, if you guys want to come up here, you can pray up here, you can close your eyes in the seats, but this is what I want you to do. We are all good. I am the best at wearing masks. But inside, we know what's going on in our heart. We know what we carry. If you are carrying stuff, if you are carrying shattered pieces, there's nothing that we can do to them. But God is a God who restores beyond glue, beyond super glue. God is a God who will take the broken pieces and make them into something beautiful. Do you need your dreams restored? Do you need your life restored? If so, use this time just to pray and talk to God and give him the broken pieces.